All right, guys. So today is Thursday. This is our last class for the week. We are in chapter 7, and chapter 7 talks about resume writing. So we're going to spend some time on that. Please remember, if you have not done so already, to schedule your appointment times to meet with career services so that they can review your resume. That's going to be very, very important because you have to turn in next Thursday a signed copy of your resume that they've seen. It does not do you service to try and sign your own resume because what will happen is they are going to keep a copy of your resume on file. So when they begin to support you in your job search, they're going to use that resume. So not working with career services to do your resume, you're is not benefiting you. So don't try to skip that process. Most career services are very flexible. Some of them, if they've seen your resume already, they'll sign off on it and you turn it in. It's really that simple. So just go ahead and try to get that done so you guys can be prepared for the job search process. All right. So in chapter 7, we are going to discuss resumes, the importance of keywords that you'll find in job postings and how they relate to your resume. All right. We'll also discuss the different formats for resumes and what a professional reference is. So, most of us know that a resume is a written document. What it's designed to do is to list your qualifications. Um, you want to be able to showcase to a company not just the type of work that you've done, but how well you've done it. I tell people all the time a resume is not a job description. Some resumes you may have noticed will say, oh, I've worked as a clerk, or I've done, worked as a paralegal, or worked as an accountant. And then they go on to list different things they've done as an accountant, which is fine, but they never follow up with how well they've done it. So I believe a lot of people think that a resume is designed to show people what you've done. In actuality, your resume is designed to show people how well you've done something. And they don't know how well you've done something if you don't state it. So when we get to showcasing your experience, I'm going to show you how to write that in such a way that companies can have a better understanding of how well you've done something, not just the fact that you've done something. So when you do a job search, let's say we go on to Indeed.com and a job posting is there. You may notice what? Well, if you've paid attention to what we've discussed so far in the class, we've talked about skills, right? So most job descriptions are going to list the skills that they want you to possess, both the hard skills and the soft skills, right? Most job descriptions will have those. We call those key words. Those are the key words. So when you are responding to that job advertisement, you are responding with your resume. What do you think needs to be on your resume? Somebody tell me. What do you think needs to be on your resume? If you're responding to the job posting, and they have key skills that they require, what needs to be in your resume? Those key skills. We call those keywords or trigger words. You'll understand what trigger means when we get to ATS systems, automatic tracking systems that track the keywords in your resume. So, when you are reviewing a job posting, here's an example of one. Here it says that the essential duties for this position, it happens to be a welder, is what? The ability to read and interpret blueprints, schematics to determine the specific welding requirements. The second bullet says that it wants you to be able to set up and maintain welding equipment and selecting and installing torches. It goes on to tell you that it needs you to be able to operate manual and semi automatic welding. What has the person done? They've highlighted key skills. I don't know if there are any welders here, but if this is your profession, you should know what the key skills are in your profession. It's one of the reasons why we have you do that exercise of identifying what are the key skills, what are your top skills. That's what we've done this week, right? It's important for you to know what those key skills are. When you go to a job posting, you are reading it. If you don't know the job, you're not going to know what is a pertinent skill and what isn't. You might say, oh, okay, well, if it's in the job description, it's all pertinent, but not necessarily, because companies will rank you based upon what skills they think are important. It's important for you to know what skills are important for your industry. Does that make sense? So when you're reading a job posting, you should be highlighting these skills. So you'll know, oh, okay, this company is looking for this, this, and that. And because this is my industry, I know which ones are most important. So then what happens when you get ready to write your resume? You'll ensure that you touch on things that you have done that relate to that job description. Wait a minute, Miss Taylor. Are you telling me that every time I review a job posting and if they are asking for different skill sets, then I need to make sure that I edit my resume for those skill sets before I send them my resume? Yep. Does that mean that I may have various versions of my resume? Because it probably will be impossible to write a succinct resume and include everything that I've done. I need to just focus on the things that they're asking. Yes. If I have 50 applications I've applied for, does that mean sometimes I may have to rewrite my resume up to 50 times? Yes. Do y'all see why job search is difficult? Is there an occasion where you can send the same resume over and over again? Only if you've looked at a job description and they happen to be asking for the same thing. That maybe is 20% of the time, because like the screen says here, most companies will use an automatic tracking system, which is a software that they will use to run your resume through. And what do you think that software is doing? It's looking for keywords. How many people have ever gotten an email that says, "Thank you so much for your time. Unfortunately, we've decided to move on with another candidate whose skills closely align with what we're looking for." Anybody ever got that? That is an automatic tracking system response. That probably means a human has never seen your resume. Does that mean that you weren't qualified for the job? Nope. Does that mean that they probably put your resume through an automatic tracking system and they did not see any of the keywords in their job description? So they made the assumption that you weren't qualified? Yep. So are you doing yourself a disservice if you do not edit your resume to ensure that if you have those skills that they are on your resume? Is job search an arduous process? It is. It is. But unfortunately or fortunately, thanks to technology, mm, you'll find a position that hundreds of people, thousands of people will apply for. Some of them may not be qualified, but nowadays, job postings are online and anybody can apply. So a company is receiving hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of resumes. They are not going to read each one. You are doing yourself a disservice by not ensuring that your resume have those keywords or enough keywords, only those that you have experience with, of course, on your resume, both hard and soft skills. Does that make sense, guys? Does everyone understand that? So you may ask the question, so what's the whole point of doing this exercise with career services? Well, it's a starting point. It's a starting point. Does that mean I will have to continue to revise my resume? Yes. Mhm. Are there any questions on that?
No.
All right. So, what goes into a resume? Well, most resumes have these sections that we see here. It has some type of heading, which puts, obviously how someone will get a hold of you. It has some type of summary. This summary is sometimes called a summary, a profile, a qualifications, your skills, your experience, and your education. Some other resumes have awards and all those things, but most resumes have these key components. When it comes to your heading, my friends, I know the book says address. Do not put your address on your resume. You can put your geographic location, Central Florida, Fort Myers, Florida. Don't put your physical address. In society today where technology is rampant, unfortunately, there are bad actors that create Indeed accounts and LinkedIn accounts, and they do it to get information because many of us, especially those older people like myself, we used to put our address on our resume because you traditionally did not post your resume online, right? You physically handed your resume to someone. But times are changing, and wherever there is opportunity, there are going to be people to take advantage of it. So do not put your address on your resume, but you can put other things. Some people don't even put their actual phone number. You can actually get like a Google number if you want. I mean, it's up to you what you're comfortable with, but you clearly want to have some type of way for people to contact you, right? So your phone number, your email address is good, your geographic location, your LinkedIn profiles, all of those are great. It is important for people to know what your geographic location is because they may have some requirements. They may say, okay, they want the candidate to live within a certain, you know, area or a certain state or things like that. So it is important for them to know where you live, but you do not have to give them your physical address, okay? Now, the summary section, this is very important because the ATS system does read through the summary. The summary is what's at the top of your resume. Again, some people call it a profile, some people call it a qualification summary, but whatever you title it is not important, but it is important that you have one, in my humble opinion, because it's going to identify some of those keywords, right? You're going to have a brief little statement, and I'm going to talk to you about how you're going to use that statement for other areas for your promotion, like on your LinkedIn and in your cover letter and things of that nature. But you want to have some type of summary that talks about your key strengths and make sure that you have keywords in it. So even though you're writing your resume now, when you go and look for a job, will you have to edit your resume? Yes. Okay. So that is what the summary is about. Just giving people a brief um, statement of who you are. Some people call it a branding statement, and we'll discuss that next week about branding statements. I've said to you, you have to look at yourself like a business. And just like any other business, you have to promote yourself. So part of promoting yourself starts with your resume. And that summary is a promotional statement. And you will be using that promotional statement to promote yourself in other arenas that we'll discuss next week. All right. So, some people have skills on their resume, not everyone does, but this is another place that an ATS system will use to scrub your resume to look for both hard and soft skills. Typically, they're in bulleted lists. Sometimes they're like two columns. What is the goal? The goal is to let the employer know, yes, I have these skills right out the gate. Before you even look at my experience, I have those skills. It entices them to continue to read your resume. Once you get to the education, um, and this one is, a preference on whether you put your education at the top, whether you put your education after your experience. But most times, if you are just starting out, we recommend that you put your experience, right, your education, excuse me, right at the top. You want to definitely list the school that you've graduated from and the city and state because some people will want to, Google that school to make sure it's a real school. Do people actually put fake schools? They do. You'd be surprised. And they want to know what year you graduated because it just lets them know, okay, did the person graduate at all? Are they a fresh candidate, a freshly, graduate candidate? They're interested in that information. So at minimum, you need to have those things about your school there. Now, here is the obviously the most important piece is your experience section. Similar to your school, they want to know your company's information. Yes, in part to make sure that it's a real company. You work for ABC company, it's in Miami, Florida, and these are the dates that you've worked at that school. There are some companies that actually do background checks and they will use what you put on your resume on there. Most companies don't do background checks, but there are some that do. It depends on the field that you're going into. After you've put after you've put your the company name and the city and state it's from. Typically, you go to the next line and you put whatever position you had and the time that you worked at that company. Now, what I do, there's no right or wrong, right? Because your career services person is going to help you write your resume based upon, their preferences. What I normally do with my resume is I'll have a brief statement, like 3 sentences, that sums up the work that I've done with that particular company. I'll ensure that I have those keywords there. And then I follow up with at least three, what I call accomplishment bullets. And those bulleted statements talk about how well I've done a job. So if I were an accountant, I would talk about, a summary of what I've done for that particular company. And then I would follow up with 3 bullets to talk about how well I've done. Maybe I've saved them some money. Maybe I was in charge of a international firm where we had multiple offices. Maybe I was in charge of doing an audit and we got a perfect audit. I would list those things. Why? Because now I am showing them I'm not just an accountant, I'm a good accountant. And here are some of the accomplishments I've had. What's the difference between my resume and somebody that doesn't do that? Well, if person A just lists, oh, I'm an accountant, and here's all the stuff I've done, a summary of what they've done as an accountant. I write, I'm an accountant, and I list a summary of all the things I've done as an accountant. And let's say they're very similar. But then I go on to list accomplishments that I've done while I was an accountant. Which resume do you think will be more enticing, right? It's going to be more enticing for someone that can identify some of their key success. Is that not the case? So, the way I write my experience is I list what I've done, but I also talk about the accomplishments that I've done for that company. Do we have any questions on that? Does that make sense? All right. Now, when it comes to writing resumes, believe it or not, there's a lot of different formats resumes can come within. Most times you'll we're all used to seeing resumes that are written in timeline format, right? Where it'll have um, the most recent job all the way back 10 years is what they say nowadays. It could be more than that to the earliest job that you've had. We call that a timeline or a chronological resume. Some industries, like the IT industry, for example, we sometimes use skills based resumes where you'll talk about a certain skill that you have. So maybe if I were a web developer, I may put in my experience section web development, and then I'll list all the different companies that I've done web development for, because after a certain amount of time, web development is web development. So I don't have to say, oh, I work for Microsoft and this is what I did as a web developer. And then I work for Google and this is what I did as a web developer, because it's going to sound a little monotonous. But I can put just web development, all the stuff I've done is web development, and then I list different companies. It makes sense for technical fields because sometimes those jobs are very similar, right? It's not a common type of resume, but some people do use it, right? And then other times you can do a combination where you can have a little bit of a chronological, but you only talk about very briefly, okay, I worked for this company and here's a brief summary. I worked for that company and here's a brief summary. And then you go and spend more time on the skills. Again, it's not common to see those. Mostly you'll see those in very niche type jobs, but most people use a timeline or chronological resume. Because companies are utilizing these ATS systems, they want you to send them your resume most times in PDF format. Some will still accept Word, but many of them, because sometimes, if you send a Word document and someone is collecting these resumes and sometimes they open them and they're looking for keywords and they may make a mistake and delete something off a resume, and so they try to minimize those errors and they'll ask you to submit your resume via a PDF. So just make sure you know how to do that, or you have software on your system to do that, so that when you do submit it, it's done in a PDF format. All right. We Now, when the book talks about non-traditional resumes, most times you'll see that. Well, I'll say this: a primary example of a non-traditional resume is LinkedIn. LinkedIn is essentially your web-based virtual platform. It's your portfolio, if you will. Because when you do your LinkedIn account, and we will be showing you how to do LinkedIn here, you are going to list chronologically the work that you've done, right? So some people consider that like a virtual resume. The great thing about LinkedIn, though, is you get to showcase other things that you've done, like your education, certificates. You can put videos up. I mean, it truly is a virtual portfolio. Years ago, we used to have to walk around with portfolios. Anybody remember that? Like you would have to walk around with a portfolio case. Office Depot made a lot of money off of us. And you would have all these copies of your resume and, your references and different statements. Some of the times we would have our performance evaluations in this portfolio. Well, thanks to technology, you don't have to do that anymore. You can just create a LinkedIn profile and you can put all that stuff up there, all the great things about you. People can, give you high fives and references and all kinds of stuff on LinkedIn. So, that's also considered a virtual resume, right? Clearly, when you're doing your resume, especially now that you know that you have to rewrite your resume over and over and over again, is it easy to make a mistake? Absolutely. Have I done it? Yep. Oh, I've made a lot of mistakes. I've forgotten to change my cover letter. I've forgotten to, adjust some stuff in my resume because let's face it, when you are looking for a job, there's a lot of anxiety associated with that. And you sometimes you're tired. Sometimes you have a job, but you're trying to find a better job. So you're applying for this work late at night after you put the kids away. Like I get it, and you make mistakes. So it's so important for you to try not to do that because you don't want to spend your time looking and looking and looking for a job and you find the right job and then you spend time editing your resume and then you don't read it well and then you submit it and it was supposed to be to Sarah and you said hi Tom. Some people are so anal that they'll just dismiss it right away. Right? You'd be surprised. And a lot of times they do that because they get so many resumes. It's a horrible reason to dismiss people's resume, but if there's a lot of you know, typos in it or clerical errors in it, it does happen. So you don't want that to happen. So I try to tell people, try not to, apply for things when you're tired and, you just, are more prone to make mistakes because you don't want to lose an opportunity because of that. When it comes to your professional references, two things with this. Number one, make sure that's on a separate sheet of paper. Many of you may have heard of that before. Three is enough. Very similar to your own personal information. Please do not include these people's personal information on a reference. Don't put their address. I don't even put their phone number unless they give me permission. I only put the most recent company they worked for, their title, their email address, right? If that company needs their phone number, they can let me know. But most times people aren't calling for references now. They're just submitting some survey or, something for them to, some form for them to fill out, right? Make sure that who's on your reference, people know that they're on your reference. If you are in the job market, guys, and you've given somebody's information as a reference, let them know. I think a great courtesy is to send them the job description. So if you're like, hey, Miss Taylor, I need you to do a reference for me. I have people asking me to do references for them that I've worked with 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And I'm totally fine with it because it's part of networking, and we'll get into that next week. Um, I just say, send me the job description and tell me what it is you want me to focus on. Because again, that particular job, maybe they want someone that's done a lot of interaction with customers. So they'll say, hey, yeah, focus on the time we worked on that project, and I was the team lead, and I had to engage with the customer. Okay, now I know what they want me to talk about. So that is how you want to treat your references. Make sure they understand, give them some guidance on what it is you want them to say. People don't mind being a reference for you, but sometimes it can be cumbersome if you don't help them help you, right? So help them help you and make sure they understand what it is you want them to say. Not that you're telling them what to say, because clearly they shouldn't be a reference if you don't trust them. But and they should know enough about you and your work history and your work style in order to even be a reference. And when we talk about networking, you'll understand that, listen, guys, you don't have to be best friends with someone to put them down as a reference. I'll be honest with you, and maybe it's because I'm a little naive. I had no idea that people use their personal friends and families as fake references. Like, I just recently learned that people did that, and I was like, "What?" Like, I would be too afraid to do something like that. But I don't know. It's just me. I'm not. I don't have a good poker face. I don't know how to fake stuff like that. I had someone tell me, and this person was a high-ranking professional. Like, "Oh, I just used my ex-husband." I'm like, "What? What? What?" Like, it has never occurred to me to do that. Ever in life occurred to me to do that. But people do whatever is for shortcuts, I guess. Me, I think it's far more easier if you have a good working relationship with people, and you have you reciprocate, you put them as a reference, they put you as a reference, your references will change as you do different things and acquire different skills. You'll always have a reference. Like, I always keep in the back of my mind one or two people that I'll keep as a reference. It's totally fine, right? But to have to go down that slippery slope of having your cousin be your reference, okay, whatever. All right, so that's how I do it. But all right. Here's the reference document. Again, I say, the top is okay. He has his web address, then, the different references. Again, I don't, now, if it's a business address, you can put that, right? But just don't put their personal information. If it's a company phone and you've asked them, then it's okay to do that. All right. So, what are you going to do for your assignment today? For your assignment today, you are going to review some job postings, right? You are going to review some job postings, and you're looking for what those skills that they are looking for in a person in a for a person for that position. All right. So, what you're going to do, I want you to go and look up job postings, and when you found 3, I want you to list the websites for those job postings. So if you and they can all be like, if you use indeed.com and you do indeed.com and you're looking for electrical and you find one you really like, just make sure you copy that URL, right? When you for that particular one. And then list the hard skills and soft skills that they like. Go to another one, do the same thing, go to another one and do the same thing. Now you want to try to list the top 3 hard skills and the top 3 soft skills that that company's looking for, right? Make sure they're in common. So for example, if I go to indeed.com, electrical for ABC company, indeed.com, electrical for X company, Indeed.com, electrical for Sam's company. And I'm looking, hard skills, hard skills, hard skills. Ooh, look at that. I see this one wants that one wants that, and that one wants the same thing. So that's one hard skill they all want. Oh, I see another hard skill they all want. I see another hard skill they all want. Oh, they all want time management. Oh, they all want you to be flexible. They all want you to work on a team. So those would be the top three soft and then the top three hard. Does everyone understand? So you're looking for similar. Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead. What's your question? Or are you just raising? Okay. All right. All right. All right, my friends. Here's your participation question for today. I want you to list three things you learned about resume writing today. Three things you've learned. And if you haven't learned anything from me, I apologize in advance. You can always get it from the book. Three things you learned from me or from the reading about resume writing. This is your question for today. All right, my friends, if you don't have any questions, please remember we do not have class tomorrow. We do not have class tomorrow. You have until Sunday to turn in all of your work. You have until Sunday to turn in all of your work. Please try to get everything done by Sunday. And with that, I will see you guys back here on Monday. Have a great, great rest of your day. Please remember you can always reach out to me if you have any questions. Please get your participation done by 12:30. Thank you so much, guys. Have a great day. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.
You too.